Hello and welcome back for part 2 of the Seward Highway seam building walkthrough tutorial. This is Sam Lytle, and this part we're going to do some phasing, some existing proposed phasing, and also kind of finalize the double roundabout area and clean up that. This was just, the first video was 2 hours and this one won't be as long, but I needed to break it up into two because there's a lot of different tasks that we're doing. So you can see the results. Turned out good. I'm always pumped about these kinds of projects because I know the end results are going to really show off what Beyond CAD can do, and hopefully your own project, whether it be InfraWorks or Civil 3D, open roads, inroads, whatever it is, hopefully you can have similar results. And if you can't, you can always email me, sam@beyondcad.com, and I'll do what I can to get your project into Beyond CAD and show what it can do. All right, so we got this above view right now, and that's because I'm in the process of getting everything organized in the proper hierarchy in the Organize tab. And the Organize tab is always right here. One thing that I did, took me a couple minutes, was I moved all of the trees into their own folders, and some other assets, I just kind of organized them and then put them into these kind of master folders for better organization. And in the future, possibly even when you're watching this, when you use the brush tool or line tool, they'll just auto group into one group. Right now you have to kind of manually drag and drop them, which is a limitation, but that should be fixed soon. So what I'm trying to do, when there's existing or proposed projects, there's typically just three groups you need to organize into, and that's existing, proposed, and existing removed. I'm going to rename this to just proposed. And to make a folder, you can either just use an existing asset or import a 3D mesh, or you can create a new folder like this, and you can remove that if you need to. So I have my existing proposed and existing removed. Most things are where they need to be, but I want to just show the final few elements. And just to show you, existing, that's what happens when you shut that off. Proposed, that's what happens when you shut that off. And existing removed, you can see a few things there as well. And the problem I'm having that I need to fix is when you remove when you move proposed and existing removed, there's just a few elements in existing that we need to get rid of, or we need to move into existing removed. And that's these quads. You can see that there are some quads that we want to still stay in existing, and we want some of those to go into existing removed, because in this project, when CivilFX made it, they made duplicate quads, some with the proposed in and some with the proposed out, exactly for this reason. And that's what we're going to go through right now. So I need to zoom up so I can see where those quads are and get them moved accordingly. So that one's not one we need, and I'm just going through because we only want to move the duplicate quads that are on the project corridor. All right, I'm not sure if that one is. We need to do these ones. All right, so now we can test. Let's go up to existing, shut it off, and we should only have those quads on the proposed corridor. And then we turn off proposed, and that gives us kind of our existing model the way it was. And then existing removed, it's going to remove those things that we're going to take out. So now let's make three phases. Then they don't have to, but in this case, we're going to match them to our folders. So existing, go to new phase, and then proposed. Call this one proposed. And there are a lot of reasons why you can do this, but the big one is so that you can show existing conditions versus proposed conditions, either in real time or in your renders, and that's really nice. And you can also phase the traffic. I haven't done that now, but let's just test and see how it's running. So we want to turn off existing removed, and it should work. All right, so you can tell we still have some work to do, as we can see right here. And I turned off the folders, but you could do the same thing down here. And before I do that, I'm going to just go and save this file. All right, so I saved my file, and if it's not clear already, it takes probably 2 minutes usually to save, and I just don't need to waste your time, so I cut that out. So again, let's figure out what's going on with our project if we have existing and existing removed. So there's still some elements that are coming through, and if you turn off existing, they're gone. So we know that they're somewhere in here and they need to be in the existing removed folder. All right, so it's not quads. I think it's this existing corridor. Yeah, so we need to get that into existing removed and turn that guy off, and now we're in business. So again, you can do that with our phasing system, and that's probably the better way to do it because that works in the Gantt chart 4D phasing and also in the presenter mode. All right, so let's go and turn on our traffic and just double check that it's looking okay there. And we can do this in real time. So if we wanted to see existing versus proposed, we do that. And our traffic is shutting off because we don't have it phased correctly, but you can just turn it back on by turning the traffic back on. All right, so we have some good organization now, and I want to go over here and spend some time on this double roundabout, which is really neat, and it's got these cool retaining walls. And just apologies to those involved in this project. I'm going to use a little bit of creative license, so just to show what Beyond CAD can do, but you can go to the link in this video or in the video in part 1 to see the actual project website, including the renders. So part of the problem that we have here is we have these houses that are in the proposed, and they shouldn't be there. All right, so now we're seeing another problem, which is we need to get some more quads into existing, because when you turn off proposed, it shouldn't do that. Oh, I know why. It's because existing removed is off. There we go. All right, so when you go to this area, it looks like the modeling's just off. So we're going to just turn off all these houses and replace them with houses from the asset library. And it's not going to be perfect. In reality, we would probably go back and find that Appliques file and remove those, but we're just going to do it this way. It'll just be a little bit easier for what we're trying to do. All right, so we have this building folder, and we have a bunch of materials, and we have HD buildings. All right, so if I turn off HD buildings, it looks like it fixes that. So let's just stick with that for now, because they already fixed that problem. Let's go to existing removed, and now we have the way this is supposed to be. And we're going to add some trees like we did over on the other side. So let's go to our trees and vegetation and find some of those, some more of those conifers. And we're going to just place some of those. We'll just do these one by one. Just this is going to be a little bit more precise. Trying to match somewhat what we have in the terrain. And we're just going to stay pretty close to the corridor because in the distance, the terrain kind of handles the tree situation. All right, so now I'm grabbing a shorter tree and just continuing to add some of these in here. for some diversity in our precision. And then over on this side, looks like we have some really small ones. And I'm going to go add one of these other ones in here. Alright, and the reason why I feel like I can get away with these, even though they're a little different than the other ones, is because these are clearly planted as part of the landscaping, whereas the other ones seem more natural. Again, this is just kind of a matter of taste. So let's go and actually try the rectangle select tool and see if we can just grab those. So I grabbed maybe another one, but that's okay. And I dropped it. I'm just going to take the transform widget and pull them down. Oh, okay, I know what's happening. I'm trying to grab the transform widget and it is thinking that I'm doing the rectangle select. Alright, there we go. Alright, so now that looks much better. And then we're going to place some trees over on this side. Let's go back to our other conifers. And I mean, the big, one of the secrets to visualization is if you can put trees, do. Because the models are going to look, they're going to be some of the most realistic things you can place in your project. And it's just going to add so much. It's going to hide things that you would rather not be seen, and it's going to just add a whole nother level of realism if possible. Especially these ones, they have the trees, the leaves blowing in the wind, and so it just really helps for the look that I'm going for in this scenario. Alright, so let's get down with our cameras, where our cameras are going to be, and see if that's starting to make a difference. I can already tell it is. So just a few more. And again, the limitation on trees, you can place as many as you want, but you're going to have to make sure whatever you place gets organized, and it also may slow down your performance depending on the GPU that you're using and the specs of your own computer. So just proceed with caution when it comes to trees, in my own personal advice. And if you're really going all out on your visualization, you want to make it as realistic as possible, then what you want to do is get your aerials in here just like this, place your trees, and then go back and Photoshop out all the trees. And it sounds tedious, but we did it more than once in Civil FX, and it's just the most realistic look that you can possibly get. And not just the trees, but anything basically that casts a shadow, whether it be buildings or billboards or whatever. So, all right, so we've placed a lot of trees, and now I'm going to go back into the Organize tab and get all those into existing so that we can keep our phasing organized. So let me do that, and then I'll hop back in for the tutorial. All right, so I have the trees all into a folder, and I just want to show, if you get them turned off, if you drag them into the existing folder, they're automatically going to get the attributes of the phasing, and so you just go to existing and shut them off, and they're already off. So I'm noticing again that these buildings have come back. So let me go to HD buildings. That's our problem. So I'm just going to delete that. All right, so that's gone. And that's one of the beauties of this organized hierarchy and Beyond CAD in general, is all those submesh elements can be deleted and edited individually, which is a wonderful thing. All right, so we have most of our model coming together in this area. I did notice this white part. It's not snow, it's just that the texture has not been applied. So we need to go to Edit Existing Material. And so we know that that's probably the same material. So let's grab this one and then let's just paint it here, and it should just paint on the way we want it to. And if you're having that issue, it might just be because it's under something. And that's not working. Let's try over here. So this area, let's grab this quad. Actually, you know what we need to do? Let's just make this the grass. That's what needs to happen. I think that's why I'm having the issues. Go to texture. Grab the cut fill. Replace texture. And that looks like we want it to. And then this area down here looks like it needs some asphalt. So we'll just select this asphalt. It's not grabbing, so let's grab some other asphalt. Road surface. And then go back over here and paint it. There we go. All right, so let's test our cut fills over here and see if it's working. Sorry, not our cut fills, our existing proposed. So existing removed. All right, so I really painted over. All right, so I know what I did. So if we take off proposed, then that's what happens. So we just need to grab these textures from proposed and paint them back. Let's try and do that real fast. So we grabbed it from proposed, and then we need to just hover over this until it doesn't say proposed. Right there, boom. Okay, and then the same thing with this grass stuff. Let's select it from the proposed. And then see if we can paint it on the grass area. There we go. And then a little bit more here. I really could cut out these parts of the video, but I think it's important that I leave them in because you're probably going to run into similar things as you move forward. And I just want to show how I do this problem solving so that you can have the same sort of tools. that's pretty much it. Let's go test our existing proposed stuff. So existing removed, this should give us what our proposed will look like. And then if we turn off proposed and turn existing removed back on, that's what existing should look like. So that means it's working. So let's go save, and then I'll be back in a few minutes. All right, so our scene saved, and we just want to start adding traffic to this portion of our project. So I went to 2D down here at the bottom, and let's just add a few lanes on top. Again, we're not going to go crazy connecting these two intersections together for the purposes of this visualization. I'm basically treating them as two separate projects. Although obviously if you were doing this in reality, you would connect them so that you could show them and move around between them. All right, so placed my nodes, and we want this to be 3 lanes, and we want a ton of traffic. And let's do more trucks up here. And less motorcycles. And less cars. All right, and we're gonna name this Highway 3. And then let's do another one. And we don't want the exact same traffic volume. Oh, we didn't do the speed limit before. Let's do that here. And then, you know, similar vehicle distribution. Let's just turn that to 0 and that to 30. And then let's make them a little bit more polite. Name this Highway 4. And go back to Highway 3, and we want to make that 60. Let's make it 70. And one thing too, just new in Beyond CAD, you go to settings, and you can change that to metric, and then you're going to get the speed limit. So that's going to really help with your, if depending on where you're working on this project, vehicles per hour, that's going to be the same, but you see this turned to kilometers per hour, and this width per lane is now in meters. So that's a new option that we have. I'm going to leave it in imperial because that's what we do for whatever reason in the States. And let's just keep working on the roundabouts. So someday we're going to add an intersection controller, a yield controller, similar to our intersection controller. We don't have it yet. So to handle roundabouts and similar type intersections, you just have to be a little creative in how you show the traffic. And I don't think it's false advertising, because the goal is to, just show traffic in a way that explains the project. All right, we're gonna probably have to go 3D to place a node under this bridge. Okay, let's try that again. It looks like it might be overlapping a little bit, and we'll clean that up here in a second. So there's no right or wrong way to handle this. So you can see these are overlapping, which can create problems. The way we're going to handle that is we're just going to turn the traffic down pretty low, and that should be fine. Alright, so let's move that over. Okay, so it doesn't look like it's overlapping, and that's a good thing. Just trying to get this adjusted. Alright, here's our problem though. You can see these nodes are lifting up, and we want to get them now down towards the surface. And I think what's happening there is it's just grabbing the existing terrain in that area. And so another thing that we can improve on is making so that it only drapes on top of things that are visible. If you're wondering why I zoom around so fast, it's because I hold down the shift key, just so you know. Sometimes that might not be super obvious. And again, if you can't select the path, just go grab it from the traffic hierarchy. Alright, so that took way longer than it needed to for a variety of reasons. One of them was because there's existing terrain in that area, as I mentioned, and we just need to get that cleaned up. So in terms of speed down, it's like 20 miles an hour, and our spawn rate quite a bit down. And then let's test and see where we're at. So we don't see a ton of cars, and that's kind of by design. Alright, so it looks like we can turn our volume up. Again, if you can't select it, open it and select it in the scene, and eventually you'll be able to select it. So let's turn that up, maybe double-ish, sorry, 150. And then we'll add a few more traffic lanes to this area. And actually, let's rename that real fast. DR for double roundabout, and 1. Alright, so again, it's trying to grab the elevation from the existing terrain, which we will get fixed. But for now, you just need to edit those nodes. I'm just going to delete this and do it again from the top down, because at least then it will be in the right area. Alright, so I've placed these paths. I know I'm going to have to edit them in the vertical, but at least I'm getting the horizontal set up correctly. And you can see just grabbing them from the top and pulling where they need to be seems to be the best way to get that worked out. All right, so I cleaned up the traffic. Again, very tedious, but and the wheels aren't going to be exactly on the ground, but this should give us a good traffic representation. And rarely should we have any conflicts. If we don't have enough traffic, we can turn it up. All right, so it's looking good, but I'm gonna turn them all just up a little bit. All right, so I'm gonna just get some renders set up to some cameras to see if we're kind of in the ballpark of what we want to do. So we have different camera sets, and I'm gonna do camera set 2 for this double roundabout so we don't get confused by the other ones over on the diverging diamond area. And then I also want to go, let's close the render tab, open up camera settings, and I want to dial in my field of view and turn on traffic. All right, so it's looking good. I am seeing a lot of floating cars, so let me go try and see if I can fix that. Also, you might want to go back and then rename these just to make sure the camera saves. So we'll do DR1 for double roundabout. And let's shut off traffic. And then let's see if we can get some of this fixed. So So I added another node just to get our traffic a little closer to the surface, so it's not hovering any more than is necessary. And then Highway 4, same thing. Looks like it's pretty good. If you do it through the surface, it's going to look sometimes like it has a flat tire, and that's not ideal. And then I noticed this one. Alright, so back to our cameras to see how we're looking. Turn our traffic on. So it's too fast. Right, again, so you don't need every car to be in the exact right spot, but you do want them to kind of be representative of what you would see, and I feel like that's what we're showing here, which is just about right. Alright, so I did notice over here we have that one lane that's kind of running over to the diverging diamond side. Just want to turn the speed down on that. DI on ramp. DI 6. Alright, so it's 45. It's a little fast for this area. So let's just turn that down. All right, again, so taking some creative liberty here, but there's a whole tab in our 3D asset library called Landscape Architecture, and there are a lot of really cool things, rocks, sculptures, appliques. So I'm just gonna kind of put some stuff in this roundabout to add a little more decor in roundabout design. Not that you care, but you do want to be careful with putting stuff too high so that you can't see through the roundabout. So I want to do that. And then, so we put some rocks, and now I want to just put some sculptures. It's a little too much. It's kind of cool. So it's floating because I think it's placing it on the existing surface, but we can just bring it down. I don't know, that might be distracting. Let's go to that's cool. Pink's just a little bit much. And then maybe just a few trees. Again, we're trying not to go too crazy with this because you want to be able to see through it. But I'm going to get rid of these. You can tell I'm not a landscape architect. And then if we go back over here, we have what are called appliques, which can go on the sides of walls. So let's just see if we can do something like that. See what else we have. That's cool. Of course, if you have your own appliques, like in some sort of SketchUp file, you could bring them in. But we do have these built in, and we'll keep trying to add more. All right, so I'm feeling good about the direction we're going. We do need to go and organize those assets we just placed. It's just good practice to keep that stuff as tidy as possible. So let's put all the rocks into a folder, and we'll put that in proposed. And then let's put all those little trees into a folder. That into proposed. And one thing that we could do, doesn't work for all of the elements, but you could go through and turn the glow on for each of these to kind of highlight them in the video that you're making. I don't think we're going to go full through that again, and I showed that in part one of the video, but that glow is just kind of one of those really robust features that has a ton of potential. And we also have some water in here. Don't tell anyone, but it's actually just glass. Just had the right reflectivity that I was looking for, but that also might make for some cool renders as we're going through this. All right, so I'm going to stop the traffic and place just a few more pedestrian paths. All right, so I tweaked those pedestrian paths a little bit so that they would follow the proposed surface. And I can notice that something that we can fix, and again, thanks to the 3D asset library here, if we go to transportation and we go to pavement markings, let's go find a crosswalk, and let's just place that here to give our pedestrians a little bit more safety to go across. And we want to make that a little bigger, so no problem, just go to Organize tab and call that 1.2. And then our shadows are on, and you never want shadows on striping, so let's turn that off. There, now it looks just like it should. So go back to transportation, and we'll place one here. All right, so that's looking a lot better for our pedestrian crossers. And then let's go add some, if we can, cyclists over here on this path. All right, it looked like that one placed hopefully where it needs to. Let's check it. All right, that looks pretty good. This could be tweaked a little bit. So let's call that double roundabout bike 1. All right, and we're going to do path cameras because they're very important. But before we do that, let me just... So with shadow distance, it's an interesting thing. If you do it too far, you'll get shadows way in the distance, but the close ones won't look as crisp. So you got to find that balance where you want to show the crispness of your up close shadows while still showing the ones in the distance. So if our camera's going to be out here, and something like that. And I like where I'm going with these appliques, so we're going to do a couple more of those. And let's move these to proposed. We'll leave those appliques there for a second in our organized hierarchy. And let's go here and here. All right, so I did experience a crash. I had been saving a lot, so I only lost about 6 minutes of work time, which is acceptable for me. And we're going to, I got most of the stuff put back, but not all of it, and that's all good. So I want to show, let's just double check our cameras, see how our renders are looking. Camera set 2. Sorry, this is camera set 2. Alright, let's go to this one, this camera preset. And again, you can do those by going to camera settings and getting your field of view the way you want it. And it will save it in that preset, and then you can switch back to the other ones. So that's zoomed out a little bit too far. Zoomed in a little too far, I mean. That's something that we want right there. All right, so let's check our shadow distance again. I'm just looking for these appliques to see where the shadows pop out. You know, obviously we can get the shadows wherever we want, but then it's going to make them fuzzier or less depending on what we're doing. So hopefully that's okay. All right, so that's a good one, I think. And then let's go, so I don't want that. Let's do another one. Let's maybe catch some of these reflections. So just refresh this thumbnail. Then we can look under as well. We have vehicles slowing down. Some traffic backing up. I actually like that because it helps our traffic look more organic. Alright, so that's looking pretty cool. And then I want to do a path camera, show how that works. There are a lot of really cool things that you can do with them. So you go to path and then create new, and then we're going to use the picker tool right here. I want to do this bike path and generate view. And it's going to create a path following that bike automatically, which is really nice. But I'm actually, and you can do that, there's a ton of options, but I want to do this one that I really like, and you may have seen it in some of my renders. So let's offset horizontal, see which direction it's going. Okay, and then we want to tilt it horizontal, see which direction it's going. Okay, because I want to get a view of our roundabout from the perspective of where this bike would be. So let's turn on our traffic. And I'm going to do this just straight 90 degrees, and our speed's way too fast. I'm going to do about 15. And now generate view. Oh, sorry, this is negative 90. Generate view. You got to generate it every time. And let's offset it vertical. Let's get that down to like maybe 5 feet. Just want to see what view we're going to get with this. And we're only going to look for kind of the meat of the render, which is right here in the middle, something like that. But we want to get a bike in there. So the way we're going to do that, we're going to shut off our traffic. We go to our traffic up here, and we want to go to bike, and let's just turn this up to like 2,000. So there's going to be a ton of bikes, but we want that for our render. So that we can just more easily catch a bike in our render. So generate view. So this is the look that we're going to look for. another thing I'm going to do, you can tell you're going under the ground on that one, but I do want to also slow that down to get a slow motion view of these bikes. So get it up to where we want it and push play. And then we're going to go to, let's go back to our camera settings. And we want to really punch in our field of view. And we're going to get that depth of field. We want to make sure our distance is right. And we need to tilt that up a little bit. So let's get that up to, let's try 0. I can tilt that down just a tad. So maybe -4 is our sweet spot. Generate view. So our camera's not fast enough. It might catch up around this corner, but we can speed that up. Yeah, so we need to edit the traffic path a little bit. So they're going under the surface, so we want to bring them up. Not too much, because then they'll be floating. Alright, so that looks good. Let's go check our camera again. So let's do our speed 16 to match the speed of the bikes. Really slow it down. Still going under the surface, but I think we might get enough to get the shot that we want, because we're just trying to tell the story of this project. So anyways, I don't know if I'm going to use these because it's hard with the fence right there, but that's how you set up these shots, and they're really handy. Let's go back and do our camera settings. We can leave that one the way it is, but we want to bring this one in a little bit and see how that's looking. All right, and we can speed this guy up. And let's try it and do a render. All right, so that rendering's finished. And let's see how that turned out. All right, that looks really nice. Again, if you look really close, if you look really closely, you can see some of the traffic going under the surface, and we can live with that. But I think we do need to turn down our bikes. Shut this off and turn the volume of bikes down. All right, and as I mentioned, kind of as a last minute thing in the other video, it slows down for whatever reason after you render, but to fix that, all you gotta do is go to Image, let's go to camera set 2 and let's turn our traffic on. Set up an image, render, and just render that, and it will get back to our normal frame rates. So it looks like that worked. And then let's go back to our video, camera set 2, and let's see if we can get a camera catching the reflections. I want it to be a little lower because I want to really see if I can catch a truck. Had to start it right when there was going to be a collision. Let's stop that and start that again. Alright, so let's see how that one turned out. Alright, so this is what we're looking for. There's a few nitpicky things that I'm noticing just because I noticed these. One of them is this thing needs to be pulled out like the other ones. And then I have a character under here. I do want to do something with the depth of field. All right, we'll see how this one looks. Alright, the car coming was kind of cool. Just showed some of the reflection capabilities. There are so many things we could do with Beyond CAD. These include visual graphics, scene effects, sign creator, placing more detailed signs, traffic lights, all those things. But this tutorial is getting a little long in the tooth. So I just want to, let's switch back to this one. Show the before and after stuff that we started with as kind of a final thing. And you saw these at the beginning when I started this tutorial. I was showing some of the final renderings. So this is how you do it, and it's basically, you get your camera set up. Let's get our video camera set up, and okay, let's do a different one. I want this to be a little closer, and then we're gonna just kind of pan over this thing. And then we're going to render existing, and then we're going to render proposed. And we'll get that existing versus proposed look that we want. So right now we're looking at proposed, but we can obviously switch here, turn proposed off, and existing we moved on. And I guess we got to get our appliques all where they need to go. And there are some issues with some of these proposed signs. Probably going to be existing in here. Nope. Existing removed. Okay, so those need to go to proposed. It's easy enough. Alright, so let's try that again. Proposed, off. existing removed. Okay, so let's go back to our camera. And let's just go see what it looks like in the existing. So we're gonna wanna zoom, let's just zoom right there. So let's render that existing. And right, eventually in the media sequencer, which is this fourth icon down here on the bottom right, you'll be able to do this all within Beyond CAD. And you can do a lot of stuff in the sequencer already, but the way I'm gonna do it right now is I'm just gonna edit existing, edit proposed, and then fade them in between. So that should be easy enough, and I think most of you probably already know how to do some video editing. All right, and then we'll just go back to our Organize tab and go Proposed, Existing Removed, and then render the exact same thing, and that will give us what we need for our before and after. Actually, before we do that, let's our traffic turned off because it's not phased correctly. So let's go get that turned back on. All right, so I'm gonna do a few more renders just on my own, just to try and get the most out of this project, make it look the best. This will be an example project eventually, so if you are using Beyond CAD, either the free trial or the paid version, this example project should be there. If that's the case, go ahead and feel free to explore it yourself. Jump in, press F1, F2, F3, and then you can walk it, drive it, make sure to turn on the traffic, and it really, this is a wonderful project to show off what the software can do. So make sure to also check out any other of the tutorial videos. Always check beyondcad.com and follow me on LinkedIn, linkedin.com/in/Sam Lytle, LYTLE, and I will see you in the next walkthrough video.